I don't know why I'm stealing a bit from another podcast, apparently. Hi, it's David, future David, or present David, depending on how you want to view this. At the time of this recording, we didn't know we were so close to our 200th episode, so we're doing a 200th episode live special on our Twitch, twitch.tv/cosplaystitch. It'll be in the notes below, but September 4th, 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, we're going to be doing trivia, we're going to be doing Q&A, we're going to be playing Jackbox games that you can join in on. We would love to have you there. Please, please, please show up. We would love to see you there. September 4th, 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, twitch.tv/cosplaystitch. Thanks so much, you guys. 200 episodes, and we couldn't have done it without you. Thank you so much. All right, to the future episode. Past episode? This episode.
Hi guys, welcome to Cosplay Stitch and Seam. I'm Pennon.
I'm V-Fire.
And I'm David. The birthday party is back.
The birthday crew. It's the birthday crew.
The birthday crew. Look at us go. We're all a little bit older together.
Oh my gosh. I hit the level up. And all I got were stat debuffs.
Oh.
My debuff is that my knee clicks even louder now.
No. Oh, my debuff. I need a laundry list. Oh my gosh. But the ADHD meds sure do help.
Man. I should legitimately go to my doctor and see if I can get on some Ritalin or something like that. It's just a low dosage of meth. It should be fine, right?
It's fine. It's fine. Like, honestly, night and day difference for me, though, because, like, I hit that burnout and I was just like, I cannot function. And then I saw someone about, like not to get serious right off the get-go, but, like, it made a huge difference. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like, wow, is this how people function all the time? I wish I had this my whole life, you know?
Do you know how, like, when you're in therapy and you learn, like, this coping mechanism or, like, this attachment style, and there's this part of you that's like, I gotta share this with the world. I'm so excited about this thing.
Oh my gosh, I have one too. But I'm going to first tell everyone that if they have something to share.
What's your attachment style?
What's your attachment style? Oh, anxious.
Avoidant.
You can reach out to us several different ways and like throttle us through the internet. First is cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com or
you can go to the website, cosplaystitchandseam.com, and fill out the form there, or
go to the Facebook page. Yes. While you're on the Facebook page, join our fantastic community. Tell us what you're working on. Join our Work in Progress Wednesdays. Join our little memes. And if you're not a big fan of Facebook, I totally understand. We have a Discord. Link can be found on our website. And we have a fantastic community that wants to hear your horror stories. A whole channel dedicated just to horror stories. We've been talking different animes and whatnot. I know Pannon's been on there a lot lately of just talking about stuff.
Yeah, that's the ADHD meds.
Yeah, V-Fire was on there recently talking about a new cookbook, which has been in theme to what we've been talking about.
Oh my gosh, yes, I'm so excited.
Absolutely a blast. And while you're on the internet chatting to these amazing people, we would really appreciate any support that you can throw at us. Some of the amazing support you can do is provide just a link to share to a friend. That's honestly the easiest, cheapest, and nicest way to help out. You can also leave us a review in your podcasting app of choice. And of course, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/cosplaystitch. For $3 a month, we give you a shout out every single episode. And for $5 a month, you can join our Cosplay Chronicles. Giancarlo Esposito asked if he could re-record that line, and I had to turn him down. I think that recording is just perfect. So, sorry, Gene.
Nice. It's pretty perfect.
Thank you.
I like
it. And we did have to postpone the most recent recording because one of us got really, really sick and did not want to get anybody else within their ire and their wrath. Healing medication is one heck of a drug, let me tell you. So yes, the idea of sharing is very strong in all of our social media. Go tell us what you're thinking, what your attachment style is. That's my bit. Take it away from me. Stop letting me talk.
Oh my gosh. No, that's how you can tell I'm actually like doing a little bit better because I do the like chronically oversharing with everything. So I guess you get to hear about my life. I was going to say one of the things I learned in therapy, which is completely unrelated to the topic at hand, but because David talked about it, I have to now ping back to it. You know how like you like, what's the like panic attack thing you can do where you like look for your 5 senses, where you're like something I can see, something I can smell, something I can touch, right?
Grounding exercises, yeah.
Grounding, yes, thank you. And just like emotional regulation in general, because you're supposed to attach like physical sensation to the emotion you're feeling. And it took me forever to be like, well, why does it matter if I care? Like, if I'm seeing how it like affects me physically, like I might feel like I want to cry, or my throat feels tight, or like my tummy feels upset. But like, those are just like weird physical things happening. It's all in my brain. And my therapist is like, no, actually, if you're aware of the stuff going on in your body, I was like, that's weird. I did not make that connection. Like that's why you're doing the mind body bridging, was actually to bridge your mind and body.
Oh my
stuff.
gosh.
Yeah.
That's
like,
amazing.
That's what my therapist has been talking about with me too. And I'm like, I like answer and I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe these things. But now I know why.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I did a brain spotting session. I don't know if you guys have heard of that one. It's kind of like EMDR, where like a light moves and you follow it with your eyes, but this one's like you stare at a specific point for an extended period of time, and you follow your body into where those memories are. So like, hey, there's this bit of sadness. It's in the top of my head. Oh, there's a lot of anger, but it's in the left side of my chest. Or, and it's just like an hour of you sitting in silence, just sobbing. It was great. I felt so exhausted afterwards, but like week afterwards, I was like, I feel so great. This was a great session. I feel like
awesome.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. Like, my therapist is also like, as you're talking about this, where do you feel it? And I'm like, weirdly in my hands. And we would then like practice like some, warming up your hands, or, a little bit of stretching for your fingers. And just like, this is so weird. Therapy's weird, you guys.
Right? It's so weird. Like, I am very like logic brained, even though I am an emotional person. So like the fact that they're like, pay attention to the physical sensations and take care of those, and it helps you emotionally regulate. And I'm like, that sounds like fake.
All right, Freud, calm down.
But it weirdly works.
Yeah.
Anyway, David, what are we talking about today?
Well, we are talking about one of my special interests, and we had a couple people in our Discord server talk about some of these things. I want to shout out Tim and Circuit Cosplays, because they were asking about technical side of things when it comes to our podcasting or recording at a con or anything along those lines.
This is definitely David questions.
These are David questions. So if it's not if this is the Meg episode for you, I understand. V-Fire seemed offended on my behalf.
Oh, I am. David, how dare?
I know. Where do we want to start? Like, I have so much information. I need a little bit of guidance. Where do we start?
How about where can someone start?
I'm curious about equipment. Like, what is the like base for what you need, and then what's something that would be like a little bit fancier to improve your quality?
And then dream set.
Oh, dream set. Oh, buddy. Whoa.
We'll save that for last.
3 tiers.
Okay. All right. So beginner, you kind of have to ask yourself, like, what is it that you're looking to do? Are you planning on podcasting? Do you want to do a streamer setup? Or are you doing like field recordings? You can get a lot of those similar situations resolved with one piece of technology. You can use your cell phone. Your cell phone has a pretty decent microphone on it. You just need to understand how the cell phone works, where the microphone is, and how, like, if you grab onto your microphone, it's going to make a lot of noise. So you holding your cell phone, or it vibrates while you have the recording session happen, it's going to come through in your sound.
Mhm.
When I started Dungeons and Chill, it was recorded on cell phones. We had a cell phone literally hanging in the ceiling, so that way I could capture everybody. And if you are thinking like, okay, I want a couple of people and I want them on a little bit nicer of a microphone, you can get like these like handheld recorders, which record it digitally to like an SD card. And oftentimes they will have their own built-in microphones. If you've ever seen us do a remote or go to a con, you'll see us with like a little dinky recorder that has like a little fuzzy piece of cloth on it. I think V-Fire calls it like a little Chewbacca.
Yes, it's so fuzzy. It's cute.
For like our setup right now, what we do is we use a feature called Zencaster, which I absolutely love. You can get like a free tiered version. So you can get like so many hours of recording on it and so many people in your like recording space. And everybody comes in from wherever they are on their computer and records with their microphone setup. Pan, I think you have like the Blue Yeti or the Snowball microphone.
I do have the Snowball, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a USB microphone. V-Fire, what are you using?
My laptop.
So laptop microphone works clearly really well.
Thank
and
goodness.
I'm definitely on the higher end of the spectrum. I'm using the Aston Spirit microphone, which goes to the Scarlett 2i2 Focusrite. And all of that's really just fancy talk to make a high quality microphone work so that way it goes into my computer digitally.
Nice.
So that's why we all sound a little bit different when we talk, because we all have different equipment. And for some people, that's kind of a deal breaker. You want like a consistent sound quality. You want everyone to sound like they're in the same room.
Mine's a MacBook Pro. There,
yeah.
I'm fancy.
Yeah, MacBook Pro. Is it the 16-inch? I work in IT, so that's like the only thing that I know about. Like, this is 16-inch. Oh, what generation is it? The A1601?
Oh my
like,
gosh. See, I'm a snob and I don't like Apple.
I don't like Apple either. I think Apple is too damn expensive. I will censor myself out on that one.
Feel free to censor mine too. I have strong opinions.
I got so many strong opinions on Apple.
I don't want to have Apple, but I really like certain parts of it.
You know, there's
an
ecosystem to both, and I can appreciate why people go one to another.
Yeah.
I just hate their practices.
Yes.
But again, that's a personal experience. Clearly, it's working for V-Fire, so don't let my feelings dissuade you. I
specifically got ones that use USB-C chargers because I do not like having a million different chargers.
Oh my gosh, bless you. There, you know the creator Tomska on YouTube? He made the ASDF videos.
No.
That sounds vaguely familiar.
ASDF, literally just rolling your fingers across the video. Like, I guarantee that if you watch some of the skits.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're totally good. He has been like a wealth of like, just, hey, let me talk transparently about the YouTuber experience. And I love his material for that. And he talks about like, people are more willing to forgive bad video quality over bad audio quality. So if you have a bad microphone and you listen to it and it doesn't sound clear, that's going to be hard for your audience to listen to as well.
Okay. Interesting.
So be conscious of what sound is going to be sounding like. If Pannon's microphone was going to be really, really bad, I would probably be like, okay, we got to make changes here, because it's one thing if we all sound a little different and we're all in different rooms. It's another thing if it's the entire time.
Right.
So
airplane pilot.
Yeah. And USB microphones are doing great and powerful things. Tim mentioned getting what's called a ribbon microphone. I'm not going to get into like different types of microphones all that much, but a ribbon microphone is like creme de la crop. Like there's nothing better than a ribbon microphone. You don't need to get something super fancy. If a snowball microphone is working for Panon, a snowball microphone is going to work for you. I bought a USB microphone for Dane for when we have to do remote sessions, and sound quality is perfectly fine. There is some post-processing, but we're not going to talk about the post-processing side of things as much. When you're doing live stuff, because this is part of Circuit's question of like, what do you do in the like at the con? We have handheld recorders that we use. It's a Zoom handheld recorder.
It's the mini Chewbacca.
It is the mini Chewbacca. It was a Zoom H1. It's just a tiny little thing. I got like the clearance model, and it has 2 microphones on it, so it sounds semi-decent. Again, there's a lot of post-processing that you can do in there, but that's not...
Tribble.
A tribble, yeah. A tribble would be another way of... It's got a windsock on it. For those of you who want to get a little more technical, it's a little thing that goes over the microphone so wind doesn't affect it, so you don't hear that as you're outside and whatnot.
Bless you.
Wind tribble.
Yes, a wind tribble. When I'm at a table or we're doing a panel... most of the conference rooms that we have done have some sort of sound set up already. And what I will do is I will take my soundboard. I have a Zoom R16, which has served me very faithfully, and I recently upgraded to the Zoom PodTrack P8. And I will plug in the microphones that have already been there into my recorder, and then take the output into the rest of the room. So I can still manage like what the levels are going to be before it hits the room. It sounds really technical, but think about it as you're plugging in a microphone into your phone, and then the headset of that phone into the speakers. That's all I'm really doing. I'm just hitting record on my phone before I let it go to the rest of the room. Does that make sense? When I wrote it out, it doesn't make sense in total, but...
It's one of those things that's like hard to describe in an audio format. I am very like, I need both audio and visual, but like, I think the phone analogy makes it understandable.
A little bit more palatable kind of thing.
Yeah. I was going to ask you like, what's like one of the hardest things to plan for when you're like out in the wild recording, as opposed to like something that's controlled and in your studio?
If I am out in the wild, oftentimes my biggest obstacle, especially for like the cons that we do, is time. Because when we do the big panels, like the body positivity panels, we've got like 8 people on there, and that's 8 microphones that I have to set up. That's 8 cables that need to go into the mixer. The mixer needs to get plugged in. I have 5 minutes at the top and 5 minutes at the end, and that's like the most stressful part for me. Is like I gotta pack all my crap. I gotta get going. I want to talk to all you people. You've been wonderful. I gotta do this. That's the hardest part. When it comes to like consistency, I try and like watch the audience, or not the audience, but the speakers. So like if I'm not speaking at a panel, I'll keep my eye on my little soundboard, and I can turn down how open the microphones are. It's called gain. And I can turn down the gain so it doesn't pick up as much. So that means like when Panon's talking, your voice doesn't carry over to V-Fire's microphone. But then I have to like quickly flip up V-Fire's microphone as soon as they start talking, and vice versa. So when
I didn't know that's what gain was.
Yeah, gain is literally like you're gaining more sound. That's how I've always thought about it. More gain, more sound. So like when we have like a big party in the other conference room right next to ours, and they're paper thin walls already, and you could hear someone going, "Can I get 36B?" And everyone's like, 36B, or they're playing like Galactic Bingo or whatever in the next room. I try and like bring down that gain so that doesn't bleed over as much. That bleed over is what kills me the most, especially like when we're recording in person. It's harder to actually edit because then I have to, when we all say something at the same time, you get like this big buzzy room tone. Whereas like here, VFire hasn't said anything in like 30 seconds. I can just mute that and I don't have to worry about car noises or
Rude.
VFire's husband walking in or anything along those lines, right?
That's okay. He's only walked by once and flipped me off, so.
You know what? That's true love.
Nice.
That's true love.
Yeah, I love him.
When it's in a controlled environment, then I know that I have the time to like sit down and get, "Hey, Pandon, can you move the microphone closer to your mouth? I'm having a hard time hearing you." Or can I have you redo that line? Because I think there was a little bit of mix up. I can react to it a little bit more fluidly, and it's easier to edit out. Whereas when we're doing an event, I want to keep that energy up of like everybody's having a good time and talking and whatnot. But it's a lot harder to like have that kind of like, "Hey, say that line again. I didn't hear that," or something.
Oh my
like
gosh.
that,
I have to like apologize for how often we talk over each other in the live events.
It adds to it, man. Like I think when it comes to like Zencaster and whatnot, it compresses. It kind of makes the sound quieter when we do talk over each other. So like I can then like, okay, what VFire is saying is actually pertinent to the conversation, and I'm just saying something stupid that I think is witty. So I can like turn me down just a little bit, but not totally, because I still think I'm funny, and I want other people to appreciate how funny I am.
No, feel free to do that to me anytime.
I think you're the person who keeps us on track most of the time. I think VFire and I have proven that you are what keeps us on the rails.
Pandon, have you listened to the episodes where it's just David and I?
It's a mess, dude. It's a mess.
Aww.
So when it comes to those live events, I will kind of semi-rely on what technology they have already. And oftentimes, for at least Bonsai, there's 2 microphones for every room. And oftentimes we'll have like 10 people trying to talk. And so I'll have to bring my own microphones. And all I did to find the microphones that I normally use is I went to Amazon and I just typed in pack of microphones. It gave me a 3-pack for like $40.
Wow.
It's probably gone up since then. And they're just dinky microphones. And they're not the highest of quality, but for what we're doing, I don't need like singer quality. I don't need the Joe Rogan microphone,
See, you're pulling back the curtain when I just saw you roll up with like a suitcase full of microphones, and I was like, oh my gosh, Faye is so professional. Like, can you believe how lucky we are? Not that I still don't think that, but...
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate that I have fooled you all. So I've pulled it up. They are Behringer Ultra Voice XM 1800s. It's a 3-pack of microphones for $45. So
Dang.
With those, some XLR cables, and then a recording base of some sort. So I used the Zoom R16, those handheld ones that I was talking about. Some of those have places you can plug your microphone into, so you can then record directly to that. And that's a cheaper option, and it's smaller, and it can go. It can be like on the go.
Nice.
I have a follow-up question.
Yes, please.
What's the difference between the XLR cables and, say, like an HDMI or USB input?
That is a really, really great question. So HDMI, that has all these like different little wires inside of it that handle different frequencies of things. Think about, I'm going to get really old here for a second. Think about when you had the RCA cable, red, white, and yellow cable. And the yellow cable did video, the red did the left, and the white did the right audio.
I do remember that.
Think of that.
I still have that.
24 times smaller. So
Oh,
one
okay.
wire will handle like the color blue, and the other wire will handle the color green, and so on and so forth. So HDMI will do a lot of really great things when it comes to moving digital media to digital media. XLR is great for sound because it sends that signal in 3 prongs, kind of like your old headphone jack when it had like the microphone on it and it had those like 3 black
Oh.
rings. Those 3 black rings are where it denotes this is the left channel, this is the right channel, and this is your microphone channel. So that way you can have
Oh.
your left and right speakers in your ears and then your little microphone guy.
Nice.
So XLR basically just moves the sound from point A to point B, and it keeps it what's closer to known as an analog sound. And this is where we get to the hipsters of like vinyl sounds so much warmer than like MP3 files. It just doesn't beat it. I say that facetiously. I don't actually believe that. They've done so many studies of like, here's these people who think that vinyl sounds warmer. We're going to play them the same song and we're just going to cut in different sections of this was recorded from vinyl and this is an MP3. Like, what do you think? And they could not tell the difference. But it does make a difference when it comes to recording things. So USB sends it digitally. And think of a wave that goes up and down, right? Like kind of like on your graph, right? A sine wave, if you will. And analog is a perfect soft wave that goes up and then back down. But digital has to make shortcuts. So it actually looks more like steps or the pyramids going up and then back down. So that's why a lot of people think that when you're listening to audio, you don't want those steps, even though they're almost imperceptible. With today's technology, you'd have a hard time knowing that it's recorded digitally versus analog. In recap, analog is a very smooth wave. The digital takes like shortcuts, so it actually looks more like a pyramid or a staircase going up and then back down.
Oh, interesting.
So it sounds like with older technology, you could tell like this doesn't sound as good, but nowadays it's almost impossible to tell the difference.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang, that's cool. Thank you.
So that's why when I use my microphone, I have to plug into my Focusrite because it converts that analog into digital. So my computer can then read it from there.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's super expensive. This microphone is super expensive. The audio box is super expensive. So it might be worth just to buy a $30 microphone if you're going to be doing like a Discord call with your friends. Before we had Zencastr, back when you were in Oregon, Pannon, do you remember what we used to do?
Oh my gosh.
Just recording locally on Audacity, and then everyone would send me their files.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yes, I do remember that.
So remember how I talked about how like it takes steps, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't all take the same steps at the exact same time. So over time, even though we all recorded for, let's say, 20 minutes, where it puts that audio or moves things around can move the difference of our conversation dramatically.
Oh, I don't like that.
So that's why Zencastr is really great because it does all of the work for me of digitizing it and making it a lot easier. It's $20 a month. Zencastr, why haven't you sponsored us? We have been working with you guys for years now.
Nice.
Yeah. What else can I cover at this point?
I mean, those are like the big questions I had. Like, you got like the base, the like medium and the intermediate level. You explained really well like what the different pieces do and why.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like what was, I guess for you when you were like getting started into audio, what was the hardest thing for you to wrap your head around?
Ooh. I think the post-processing side of things was definitely like the most difficult side of things, the timing of it all.
Oh yeah.
Because you think about sound as a wave. like let's talk about a literal ocean wave. You can see that wave coming and hitting the beach, but like a little bit down further on the beach, a different wave kind of like has bounced and is moving at a different time. To go back to Dungeons and Chill, when we had multiple phones set up, I would do a big clap, and that would help me sync up the microphones that were like in different locations. But the thing that I didn't expect was that they all like pick up sound technically at different times, microseconds. But then it makes it sound really echoey, and like because you're gonna hear Kaylin talk, and it's coming from 3 different places, and it's what's called out of phase, because those sound waves aren't in sync with each other, so they slowly like kind of cancel each other almost, and it sounds really ugly.
Oh, interesting.
So that was the hardest part for me, was trying to figure out like, okay, do I try and bring them into phase so that way they all are synced up? And how closely do I have to get them? I just ended up learning, no, it's better just to mute the quietest of the 2 and amplifying the loudest of the one. So that's why when all 3 of us are in a space, and I want to turn down Pannon's microphone when V-Fire is talking, so that way when your voice carries over, it doesn't kind of have that like weird echoey vibe. And it's really hard to do sometimes, because again, you're reacting in live, and I never know when you're gonna like pipe up with like, oh, I had this really great idea. Like I don't have a script, you know?
Yes. Or do one of my very loud braying laughs.
I love your laugh. Shut up.
Nice.
Yeah. So like that's why like sometimes when you hear live performances, you're hearing not only like multiple microphones picking up one person, but you're also hearing the speakers playing into that microphone on a delayed factor. That's why it sounds so like big and boxy.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
No, like I've heard from others that like the processing part of audio is like one of the hardest things to learn and to execute well. Because I think people tend to think of like IT audio stuff is very like technical oriented, but it's very much an art, just like any other medium.
It's 100% vibes. 100% vibes. I had, I'm part of this like comic book podcasting group, and somebody's like, hey, I bought a brand new microphone and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. So I sat down with him and we were going through it, and I was like, dude, you sound clear as a bell. And I pulled up like all of the scientific data about like why it sounds better. It's just, to him, he's not used to that sound. It's like hearing your own voice in a recording for the first time. It's like, that's what I sound like?
Yeah.
It's like, what?
No, I still struggle with that when I'm like, is that my voice? Is that my voice?
Well, and like there's so many ways that a single microphone can sound different on your voice. Where is the microphone in relation to your mouth? Is it closer to your throat? Because if it's, as I'm doing right now, is none of you can see it, closer to your throat is going to pick up more of that bass. If my mouth is really close, you get what's called a proximity effect, because the bass is picked up sooner than the treble. But if I pull back, you're going to hear more of the room as I'm talking, and that's what's called room tone. And then different microphones have different frequencies, and that's again why we all sound slightly different. We're in different rooms, so we get different room tone, and the microphones have different frequencies that they listen for really well.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I will say too, like when we first started podcasting all together, one of the things I still struggle with it, but is like talking directly into the mic, and like, because I have this tendency when I'm talking to just like let my brain wander around the room. And that doesn't work so well when you're like, you need to have your mouth pointed at the thing that is recording your mouth.
You know those performance stage mics that like are wrapped around your ear, so it almost looks kind of like a phone, like a phone headset?
Yes.
For one of the members of Dungeons and Chill, they were very, very much the same way. They were very animated when they role played, and I loved that about them. But I hated it as an editor. So I ended up buying one of those headset pieces, because then it would always be close to their mouth, no matter where they went.
Okay.
So like there's like different ways that you can go about it. Problem is it's not very comfortable for long sessions of recording, and that's why I very rarely pull it out.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's nice to have in my tool belt in case if I need it.
Definitely. Is there, I meant to say, like, we've talked about equipment, but like, as far as like software, is there, like, I know Audacity is free, which is great. Are there other ones you suggest for like better post-processing or just better like functionality in general?
For what we're doing, I think getting anything else is trying to kill an ant with a tank, right? It can be done. It's just
Sure.
really powerful and it's a little unnecessary.
That's fair.
That's
I
fair.
think Audacity is really, really great. There's so many great tutorials out there. I don't think that you need Logic or Fruity Loops or Adobe. I don't think
Yeah, I
you
was like,
need
what's the Adobe one?
Adobe Audition.
Yeah. My coworkers really like that one.
I love Audition. I spent like a good week trying to learn it, and I think it's got a lot of cool features, but I only use it for the last voice when I need to use different effects, when I need to like create sound effects that aren't easily accessible. But
Cool.
for our podcast, I have Audacity. It works. It's free. It's easy, and it comes with. You can find like mods for it. Super easy. I found one recently that's a declicker, so you have a lot of those clicking noises of people when they talk, or when they're dehydrated slightly. You can hear a lot of that kind of noise, and I just run that. And it cleans up a lot of that, or it doesn't clean it up. It makes it softer, so it's not as
definitive.
Yeah. And that's just like, again, part of the art of it is you kind of have to play with it until you figure out what does sound good. And I do a different version of that for each one of our tracks because I know I'm terrible about it. V-Fire, you're fantastic. I very rarely hear any clicks from you.
Oh, really?
And you're a good balance of the two. Like I hear you make them, but they're not as abrasive from like my side of things. It could just be that I'm very like picky about how I sound, and I find comfort in your two voices at this point. But yeah, it's an art. You do it over and over, and you apply the effect. You listen to it and go, no, that doesn't right. So you undo the effect, you tweak the settings ever so slightly, and then you do it again until it does sound good. But that's the post-processing side of things. And do you guys know what the Dunning-Kruger effect is?
Oh, I know this one.
Yes, I know this, but I am struggling.
So it's the level of knowledge you have versus the amount of confidence you have in a thing.
Half a second.
Okay.
I got to see that in action when I worked at the planetarium.
Oh, yeah?
The people I did all like the data collection of like the old exhibits. And we would, ask them educational questions. And then at the end, we'd ask them how confident they were in their answers. And the people who were the most confident in their answers were almost every time answering them all wrong.
Very, very wrong. Yeah.
And the exhibits with the highest confidence were the ones that scored lowest on their education goals.
Wow, that's fascinating.
It's super fascinating.
Yeah, there's this really cool like bell graph where as you learn more things, you feel like you know everything about it. But there's going to be a tipping point when you realize, oh, there's still so much I don't understand about this topic. And your confidence goes back down, even though your knowledge has increased almost tenfold. And I love that like analogy. I talk about that like all the time, is that like we all have these moments of like, I can do anything. Right. Oh, I've learned what a whip stitch is now, and I know nothing. I have I ever learned anything in my life? And so like I definitely have had those moments with like audio stuff. And Pannon, you asked me for some like technical experience on a thing, and I was like, hey, I gotta convey. I probably know a lot more than I'm giving myself credit, but I was like, yes. I gotta give you the expectation. I don't know, man.
The hubris of cosplay and podcasting and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. My question is like, what is the software we're using right now?
That's Zencaster.
So like we use this a bit, and like would that be beneficial for someone? And like what does it do? I always see it, and I see it like doing like the little lines and stuff.
That's actually a really, really great question, because like it's really easy to kind of like skim over. So when I was talking about what we used to do, we would record our audio locally on Audacity, and then we would all send the files to me, and our guests would have to do that as well. And I hated that part. Like I hated making our guests do work, because that's just like, no, you're a guest. You shouldn't have to do anything. Let me do the work. Let me do the labor. So what Zencaster does is it's kind of like Zoom. It is a meeting software that is all based on the web. And what it does is it allows me to hit record on a thing. And when it's recording, it still saves your files locally. But when I hit stop, it takes that local file and uploads it to their server, so I can then download it later and edit it out. That is like it in a nutshell of what Zencaster does for us.
Cool.
Does that answer the question?
Yes. I was like, this is something I didn't know existed until like you sent the link for it. I was like, the heck is this? This is cool.
Yeah. I didn't know about it either until a podcast I was listening to at the time. It was CinemaSins. Now I think they're called Recotopia, because they rebranded a little bit. And they shouted out Zencaster, and I was like, I wonder what that is. And it's $20 a month, and for 2 podcasts that I'm using for it, it saves me so much time. That is just when you can find a tool that makes your life just a little bit easier, it's always worth spending that money for it to make yourself just 10 minutes less of your life having to be working on a thing.
Yeah, no, for
Awesome.
sure.
Okay. Pannon, you had a question.
Yes. I always like to ask this from anyone with like a wealth of experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, because it took you a long time to get to the point where you are, and took a lot of learning and trial and error and all that fun stuff. So for you, like, what is the advice you wish you'd gotten from the start?
There's a lot. And it's going to be slightly technical.
That's okay.
The first thing that I would recommend is stop using a spinning disk hard drive.
Because sorry, as I make sound effects.
Like, yes, it is loud and whatnot, but when you're making edits and you're editing like an hour-long podcast, and you're like, okay, I need to run that declicker, right? It takes a long time for that to run, because it's writing it in real time. It scans the entire thing, so it scans your hard drive, and it scans the file, and then it applies that, and so it's writing to your hard drive. It's going to take forever. Get a faster hard drive. You don't need a faster computer, just a faster hard drive is going to be more important.
Cool.
Like a solid state is good.
Yeah, a solid state, something that's internal, not external, not something that you plugged in with a USB, because again, that is a bottleneck for the speed.
Okay.
So when you're working on it, save it locally. When you're done working on it, I have a backup drive that is a spinning disk, but it's only because I'm not going to be working on it consistently from there. I can just pull it up if I need to and move it over. That would have saved me so much time at the beginning, because I had a dinky computer. But I also think like knowing what phase is would have been the thing that probably saved me the most amount of like difficulty, and understanding like there's that echo, and it sounds like echo. It sounds bad. Make sure that you're only focusing on the microphone that's talking at the time. And when other people are talking over each other, that's okay. People are used to it, and like you're gonna hear room tone no matter what. But try and focus on the main microphone that's talking, that's bringing the point across. I think those are my 2 biggest things: is don't work audio or even video on a spinning disk drive. Use a solid state, and try and focus on the microphone that is going to be used in that moment. And then in post, fix it so that way it's the only one you hear.
Nice.
Nice.
I haven't heard either of those as advice before, so thank you. That's awesome. And thank you for sharing all of your bounteous knowledge.
I love sharing.
Yeah.
If anybody does have any questions, where can they send those? What I guess we should do a horror story first, shouldn't we?
Yes,
yeah.
gotta do that first. Then you can do that transition.
Then I can do that transition.
I was going to say, do you have any audio?
Do I have any?
Stories?
Horror stories. Spooky, spooky, spooky. Yeah,
I did that in a software called BandLab. They had it's a free music maker. It's kind of like GarageBand.
Gonna look that up.
It's web-based. Yeah, your students would love that, Free Fire. Your students would absolutely love BandLab.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, it's this like free music maker. Not very powerful, but it's got an autotune feature, and I love a good autotune feature. We do not have any audio horror stories except for, I mean, I can give like an audio horror story for podcasting. There's two that I can share real quick. We had the cosplay burlesque group. Do you remember this recording?
Yeah,
Yes.
they were super cool.
They
Was
were
it
super
Nerdlesque?
Nerdlesque, yeah.
Yeah.
And they had like 6 people on.
Yes.
And this was before we were using Zencastr, and the audio file that I had got corrupted. So I had to go to I think VFire, I asked if you would do it because I was so embarrassed that we had to go to them and be like, hey, the file corrupted. Can you send us your sources? And they were super accommodating and
so nice.
super lovely.
Aw.
And it was also a little creepy because like I could hear their conversations before we got on with them. So it was like, oh yeah, this should be easy. Yeah, it's good. And they were, again, perfectly pleasant, and they didn't say anything disparaging. It was just kind of like very business for them.
Aw.
So it was just kind of like, And there's an infamous episode on Comic Trades Monthly for a comic book called Sex Criminals. It's not a family-friendly comic book, but it is one of my personal favorites.
I wouldn't
loved
think
it.
with that title that it'd be family friendly.
Yeah. It's a lot, but if that's your vibe, if Sunstone's your vibe and you want more comedy, check out Sex Criminals by Matt Fraction and Chad something. I can't remember the artist's name. But we recorded it, and I recorded it on a SD card that did not have the reliability that I normally go for, and I just couldn't find my other SD card. So I was like, this will be fine. And my buddy comes over, we record it, and he's like trying to be upbeat about it, but I can tell something's bugging him. And I hit end, and he's like, I could not stand that book. I just didn't like it at all. And I was like, I'm so sorry. It legitimately made him uncomfortable. And I was like, oh my gosh, you should have let me know. We could have changed things. But it was really early on in our career doing that podcast.
Sure.
And I save it. Everything seems to go fine. I usually try to avoid like editing the day of, because then it's like still too fresh in my head. And
it makes sense.
So this is like February, and he calls me up and he goes, hey, can you help me out? I just got into a really bad car accident. It was snowing that day, and I felt terrible. So I met up with him. Everything, he was okay. He just hit a patch of ice. He spun out and crushed the side of his car. He was totally fine. He was the only one in the car. And I felt terrible because it's like, I hate taking people out in the snow if they're not comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. And the next week, because it's a monthly podcast, I was like, all right, I've got some time. I'm going to edit the podcast, plug in the sound card, and it goes unable to read.
No.
And I scanned and scanned. I tried all of my little tips and tricks to try and pull the data off of it. I pulled the card out, put it back into the soundboard, and it was able to say, like, yes, there is a chunk of a file here. There's nothing we can do about it.
No.
So my best friend in the whole wide world, and I get teary like thinking about him because I love him so much. Read a book.
Honestly, I would
didn't
cry.
like. He started talking about the book in like a non-derogatory way, but with real criticism, and then gets into a terrible car accident for all of it to be for naught. And I feel,
oh my gosh,
that's my like audio horror story.
That is like genuinely horrible. Oh my gosh.
Obviously, we're still
Jeez.
on good terms. We hang out every month. We're talking. We're like, and he knows how I feel, and we're good. That's not his emotional labor to carry. But it's one of those things that I think back on, and I just like, I hate this. I hate it so much. And we've only
Sure.
lost like one other file, and it was just a really bad episode in general as far as like the content. So we were like, it's okay, we can skip this one. We don't need to worry about it then. But yeah, those are my audio horror stories.
Dang.
Oh boy.
Well, what do we have from our listeners to follow that gem? My goodness.
Well, because Circuit Cosplays gave us this fantastic topic, let's
Ooh.
use one of their horror stories that they submitted in our Discord.
Yeah.
I got another horror story. This one just happened last night. So for context, I had a shoot with some friends this past weekend, and a friend wanted to borrow my fake blood. All is well, and we do the shoot, and photos turn out great. I go home to my partners on the way home to my place to pick up my Molly Mock coat, and I have been working on. Did I say that right? Molly Mock?
I think so.
I have been working on for 2 years and need finished for a competition in 3 weeks, and throw everything in the same bag.
I'm terrified at where this is going.
Oh,
I get
no.
home and I noticed my blood bag, as I call it, is covered in fake blood to the point I have to throw away some of the blood products because my friend didn't secure the bottle and leak preventative bag properly.
Oh
Oops.
no.
I eventually get to the bottom of my bag and discover that my Molly coat is covered in thick, sticky, fake blood syrup.
Oh no.
Thankfully, my mom took over and managed to get the stains out for me while I had a minor breakdown over the thought of 600 hours going to waste.
Oh my god, that is such a detailed coat. Like,
Oof.
has like so many hand done elements and like patchworking and like
Yeah.
I would literally cry. I would cry.
I'm sending the some of the pictures that they sent in the Discord. It was
Nice.
dated January 25th for those of you listening if you want to scroll back. Yeah,
it's beautiful, but oh my gosh, I would cry.
Even with my color blindness, I can see that there is coverage on these, and that is heartbreaking. I'm so glad, Circuit, that your mom was able to like step in, take care of like, hey, you take care of you. It's gonna be okay. Let's get this out. I would love to see if you have them. You said Hyatt Doll wrote, OMG, I would have lost my mind. I'm glad your mom was able to help. So am I. Thankfully, we caught it before it had dried, and I used a nice heavy upholstery fabric for the coat, so it kind of just beaded off, but I would be lying if I said I didn't cry.
Yeah, I know, like 100% I would cry.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. 600 hours for all that handwork? Are you kidding me? I would throw in the towel. You're a stronger person than I.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for sending that in. Gosh, if you lovely listeners at home have a horror story of your own to share, there's a few different ways you can do that. The first is our email, which is cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com,
or you can go to the website, cosplaystitchandseam.com, and fill out our form there, or
go to the Facebook page. Tell us what you're working on while you're there. Join our community of people. There's always some really great memes that Tim is throwing on there. We always appreciate a good, active community. And if you want something a little bit faster paced, but not Zuckerberg enforced, we do have a Discord. I am always creeping on the Discord, even if I don't have time to read everybody's responses. I finally had a chance to respond to some people today, and that's why we got today's episode. So Discord's really great. I love everybody there. Make sure that you're kind to yourselves and patient on the internet regardless. And while you're on the internet, if you want to support the show, the best and easiest way is share the podcast with a friend. It's kind of like a Ponzi scheme at this point. You have to tell 2 people and they have to tell 2 people. And eventually we'll be the #1 podcast in the world. But you have to tell those 2 people to tell 2 people. It doesn't stop. Or you could just leave a review on your podcasting app of choice. And of course, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/cosplaystitch. Some of the amazing people that we need to thank are Rain Mice, Misty Lee, Jack S, Cynthia Eve Cosplay, Star Fetcher, Troft Cause, Lydia, Yggdrasil, Dr. Steggy, Cynics, Jazzy Kofed, Jaguar Quinn, Gloria Shu, and Silver Deeds.
Nice. Thanks as always to Macy Roberts for the use of her music as our theme song, and to David Jeffress for Faye's amazing editing. How are your podcasts going, David?
Last Voice season 3 is done. I'm so relieved. I feel
like you need air horns, like bah, 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 bah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was an absolute wild ride. If you are waiting for the bulk of it, I know X Angel does that. I know my wife even does that. And I appreciate people listening to it at all. So I'm really excited for people to have a chance now that season 3 is over. And Comic Trades Monthly, Tim was kind enough to let me know that it's not uploading properly, so those will be coming out again soon. Just keep an eye on your feeder, and eventually you'll get to hear us talk about unnecessary crossovers in comics, and not just like Spider-Man and Superman having a contest. No, we're talking strange multiverses like the Power Rangers and Godzilla.
Yeah.
Nice. I like it. Sounds good.
Excellent.
Also, we talked a lot of audio stuff. If you have more questions about audio and you want to get like really granular, or if you want to like see the process of editing a podcast, please let me know. I think if we wanted to do like a live Q&A session as I edit like a podcast of ours, I think that could be really fun. Just like do it in the Discord or something along those lines, and that could. That
sounds like a great idea. I love that.
Yeah, nice. Let me know. I'm not going to just do it if nobody's going to show up, but or I could even help you edit your podcast. I can give you pointers if you want to just message me in the Discord.
That's awesome.
Yay.
Well, dang. I don't have like a funny joke, but I hope everybody is amped up about your sound advice.
That's a good one.
You dropped my guard on that one. I don't have any jokes, but amp.
But here's one. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.